Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to be going through the 5 keys to a great thriller. As we do, we'll be analyzing the movie 3 Days of the Condor. Now, if you haven't seen this movie for a long time, it is absolutely worth watching again, especially after you hear my analysis on this. But to me, when a movie was written back in or released back in 1975, it's pretty amazing that it still holds up, that it is still an entertaining and an engaging story. So this one is worth watching just for fun, but also it's worth watching to consider all the things we're about to talk about having to do with thrillers. So let's jump into this. Here's what we're going to do today. Just a moment there. First, we're going to go over the 5 keys to a great thriller. Actually, I'll do that as we are analyzing this movie, 3 Days of the Condor. And again, the reason you want to be looking at some of these movies, especially the ones that are great thrillers, is because you will see this model built into them. I've worked with so many people who have written usually it's a drama with thriller elements, and their problem was they get about halfway through it and they kind of get bogged down, and so then it's just going through the emotional journey of the character instead of delivering what a thriller needs. So today, as we go through these 5 keys to a great thriller, you will see what I'm talking about. And finally, we'll talk about the upcoming class, Mastering the Thriller Genre, for those of you who would like to accomplish that goal, actually mastering this thriller genre. It is absolutely possible, by the way. So, credit. 3 Days of the Condor. First, it was a book. It was written by Lorenzo Semple Jr. and David Raphael, based upon the book by James Grady. So there's our writers in the situation. Released in 1975, and budget was $7.8 million. Today we would call that a low budget movie. Back then, that was the equivalent of probably what we'd be doing today at about between 15 to 20. So, but the box office was 41 million, which means it made back 5 times its money. So this movie was a success financially. It was a success with audiences, right? And I would say as a thriller, it was absolutely a success. The stars on this was Robert Redford, Faye Dunaway, Cliff Robertson. You probably remember some of those names. And here we go. So the purpose of a thriller. We want to keep the audience on the edge of their seat from the beginning. And this is, again, when people write a drama with thriller elements, the problem it causes is a thriller audience goes to see it and is disappointed, even though it may have been a great drama. So if you're doing that, I would call that a drama, and then it has some thriller elements, and I would sell it as a drama. But if what you're trying to do is write a thriller, we need to be on the edge of our seat, right? And there are high stakes, there are plot twists, there's suspense all the way through it that never lets up until the adrenaline-packed climax. Right? So this is your purpose. And if you're looking at your movie, your screenplay, and you're going, wow, I spent most of the second act just telling backstory on the character or talking about things or having the character go through whatever emotions they were experiencing. Again, that's a drama. So this is a thriller. You want to have all of these. And I'll walk you through at least some of how you do that. Here we go. First thing, mystery, intrigue, and suspense. This is the backbone of your story. These three are something you're going to combine. They're going to be built in all the way through. I'll show you how they're built into 3 Days of the Condor, but they're incredibly important. Mystery means the secret, question, or puzzle that must be solved by the hero to survive. And those words are incredibly important: to survive. They're not just doing this for fun. They're doing this because if they don't do it, they're dead. So it's important to know. So the opening mystery has to suck the hero into the main mysteries of the story. So you're not just having one mystery. You're actually probably going to have multiple mysteries built in. It's also part of why thrillers have such an impact on their audience, because really great, well-written thrillers are built on this model. Intrigue. The covert, underhanded, or clandestine force or plan of the villain. So you've got a villain who has a plan that is already in motion, by the way, when the movie begins. And that plan needs to be strong enough, interesting enough, engaging enough that it keeps us intrigued throughout the story. We are trying to figure it out. So we start from the villain's plan, even though, and I'm talking about when you're writing it. Start from the villain's plan, not the hero's plight. So this is the problem I think most people have, and this is the problem I had when I first wrote thrillers. I was focusing on the hero's story, and what happens is you get about halfway through and you've run out. And now, of course, it just naturally turns into a drama because you're not really sure what to do. The villain's plan is where we need to focus. And I'll show you how to do that in just a few.
Get that. So
the villain, and this is the way you want to think of it, the villain is the writer of the hero's demise. As in, essentially, this story is written really through the villain's perspective. Now, again, we're going to, the audience connects with the hero in the beginning and goes through as the hero is trying to solve this mystery, trying to deal with this intrigue, trying to deal with what's coming next. But you want to be writing the story thinking from the villain's perspective. Then C is suspense. The escalating danger that the hero must survive. So it's escalating because we are getting further and further and further into the villain's world, right? So it becomes more and more dangerous for the hero. And that's pretty important. This is what keeps us on the edge of our seats. Now, let's look at 3 Days of the Condor, so you can see this. First, the big mystery. And the first mystery that shows up is who killed everyone in Turner's office, right? So we're, 15, 20 minutes in, and Turner goes to get some food. He goes out the back door. Nobody sees him from the front. They come in, they kill everybody in his office. They were there to kill him too. He comes back, everybody's dead. That mystery, who killed everybody in his office, right? And why, is a big thing that's going to drive where we're going to go, but it also is something that he must solve in order to survive. The second mystery then is the CIA involved, and are they covering up these killings? So Turner immediately goes to the CIA, right? He calls in, wants to be brought in. They tell him he's call back in an hour. The question becomes, are they involved? The next step, we figure out, yeah, they're pretty much involved. There's something going on there. Then the question becomes, is there another covert organization inside the CIA? And this is pretty important because it is actually a covert organization inside a covert organization. So it's also going to create more intrigue. And finally, how high does this conspiracy go inside the CIA? Now, these are the four mysteries that one after another are introduced that ultimately has Turner believing by the end that there's no place that he can be safe. There's nothing he can do. He has to give this information to the media in order to survive. So, yeah. Now the big intrigue. And in this case, there's a hidden organization inside the CIA whose covert plan has been uncovered by mistake, right? And that organization is eliminating anyone who might have touched that covert op in any way. So that means every person in his office dies because that covert plan is that important, right? So this is the intrigue that's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what it is in the beginning. In the beginning, you know, he's working on multiple projects. He has come up with this idea that he thinks that there's some kind of code inside this book. His boss doesn't believe that. They go ahead and send it in anyway. Everything seems fine. And then he comes back and everybody's dead. We don't think at that point that it has to do with that code. We have no idea what's going on, but we get a chance to find out along the way. So this intrigue, this hidden organization that has put out a hit on everybody in his office creates a lot of intrigue, and they're after him and they're never going to stop. And then the big suspense. And this is just real simple. Will the cleaner team kill the Condor? And by cleaner team, I mean the people who originally went in. But if you'll notice, if you go back and watch it again, you'll see that Jobert was there, right? The guy who all the way to the end is after him was there in the beginning. He was heading up that team. So, you know, they're after him and they're never stopping. No matter where he goes, no matter how he tries to hide, no matter who he tries to hide with, they're taking those people down also. So, yeah. All right. Key 2. Deliver on the thriller conventions. And let me say something here. If you just write a story, like a story just comes to you and you just write it and you go through that process, a lot of times people aren't thinking about the conventions. I have interviewed multiple distributors and producers about conventions, how important the conventions are. And what they basically say is this: when somebody goes to see a comedy, they expect to laugh. When somebody goes to see a rom-com, they expect to experience falling in love again, right? When somebody goes to see a horror movie, they expect to be scared out of their mind. When somebody comes to see a thriller, they expect the thriller conventions. If you ask the audience, what are the thriller conventions? They may be able to tell you a couple of them, right? And they may say a whole bunch of other things. But somewhere inside, if they've seen more than 4 or 5 thrillers, they have an unconscious map of what to expect, right? So our job is to deliver on those thriller conventions. I'll also tell you, talking with distributors, their thing is, if your story, first, if you can't tell me what the genre is, instantly, they can't market it. Second, you need to know whatever the genre is, you have to deliver on those conventions, or unless you have big name people in there, that movie will get sent to the back. So here we go. The conventions, again, are the expectations of the audience and distributors. So for producers Producers need to see those genre conventions. It makes it much easier for them to get distribution, which means they can pay off their investors, right? So this isn't a small thing. This is almost everything to them. Will this project sell to audiences? And conventions is one of the places that projects get shut down, many times without writers even knowing it. So this is really important. So here are some of the conventions. First, you have a hero that is unwitting but resourceful. Unwitting. This means they were caught off guard, right? This means that this hero has no idea the scope of the threat, excuse me. And on the other side, they're resourceful, right? Which means they have a unique skill set that fits the challenge. So you want to really be thinking about these things, and you want to make sure that that you're delivering them. Let's continue. The villain is dangerous, devious, and unrelenting. So you don't have a villain who's passive in a thriller. You have a villain who has put a plan into place all of this time. They've been working on it for years. Everything is going well for them. They are a killer. And then second thing to know, your guy just stepped into it. Whoever that protagonist is, that hero, whether it's a man or a woman, they just stepped into it. And the villain is going to do everything in their power to make sure that they don't survive. Because this is a big thing. So let's continue so you can see this. They have high stakes that are worth killing for. And this also is important. I've had some people say to me, well, I'd like to create a thriller, but I don't want it to have anything having to do with life and death. It's possible. There are probably some out there that are that way. I'm not sure. If you're going to do that, go find one of those that was financially successful and model it. But here's what I would say. I'd say you're so much better just taking it to that level, right? There's either real or there's symbolic life and death situations. So symbolic may mean the death of the business, the death of the dream, the death of the republic, or it may mean, somebody is, in the end is being put into a cell, either in an insane asylum or a prison or something like that. And this whole thing is about that, which is essentially is a symbolic death. Now, let's go on. They face danger at every step. And we're talking about the hero here, faces danger at every step, either physically, emotionally, or mentally. The hero needs to either be in danger or there's the implication of future danger. And when you look at 3 Days of the Condor, even when we got to the very end, where it's like, okay, he's safe, right? The hitman has told him he's not going to kill him. The hitman then tells him how he's going to be killed in the future. So even in that case where everything's safe, there's still the implication of future danger. So this is worth understanding. Then you need to be able to answer this question. The movie is thrilling because. So let's go to Condor. First, the intriguing concept, which is another part of this model, by the way. What happens when a reader for the CIA unknowingly discovers a secret op and his death becomes their number one priority, right? If you just had what happens when somebody like this discovers a secret op, question mark, that could be in a single scene. We add this next part because this is now the consequences of it, and this now is what the whole story becomes about. So the unwitting but resourceful hero. In this case, Joe Turner is just a reader. He has no idea what's going on or why it's happening or anything. But he's read every spy novel and is really good at solving conspiracy theories. So it's like he is resourceful. He's somebody who, even though he's never been out in the field, he knows spy stuff inside and out, and he can ultimately outthink them. So the dangerous villain, Higgins, Atwood, the CIA, the covert organization inside of it. These are the people that are controlling the cleanup team. When that doesn't work, Higgins presents Turner to his boss as a possible rogue agent, and then they send the hitman after him. So, yeah. And by the way, they're never going to stop that until he's dead. They're never. That's what the hitman tells them at the end. The high stakes. In this case, it's the covert CIA scheme to take over the world's largest oil fields. And that's worth a bunch of different things. First, it's worth billions of dollars. Second, it is essentially worth a whole bunch of high-level CIA people's careers and possibly their lives. And so this is a pretty big thing. Also, it would expose the CIA, reduce their credibility, cause all kinds of other problems inside the organization. The life and death situations. There's a whole bunch of them here. First, Turner's workmates are killed. This is in the first act. Then Sam is killed in the alley. Then a hitman tracks Turner. The postal guy turns into a killer also. And actually Wicks is killed, even though Wicks was one of the killers too. And finally, Atwood is killed. And Atwood is the director of the Mideast for the CIA. So he's pretty high up, and he's got some pretty strong projects going on that they would normally protect. So the movie is thrilling because, and remember, this is a question you have to be able to answer. This one, first time I was pitching to a producer, the producer asked me this, and I strung together some pieces. It wasn't enough. The producer said, "Thanks, not for us." So you need an answer to this. You need one that's strong and that's pretty clear. So here's what we have right now. Every step that Turner takes him into deeper intrigue and danger as he tries to figure out why the CIA sent a team to kill him and how to survive when anybody he runs into could be working for the agency, right? So this clearly shows this movie is going to be about life and death. There's a lot of intrigue. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea who's really out to kill him and why they're doing it. So it's going to be intriguing. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of suspense. And that's what you want to be able to communicate in there without saying the words mystery, intrigue, and suspense. So, okay. Again, I told you up front, we start with the villain's covert plan. Now, in reality, the idea may have come to you, right? And you may have just jumped right into the hero's story, thinking that you have it. What happens if you don't go to the villain's covert plan is somewhere in there you run out. And this happens a lot of times to people. They'll say, I was trying to write a thriller. I got to the second act and I just didn't know where to go, right? And what that means is they don't have the villain's covert plan. They only have a piece of it. What they've done is they thought the whole thing was the opening mystery of the villain's covert plan. And then it ran out because that opening mystery needed to lead into something else. So let's take a look at how this works. The villain's plan was formulated and put into action long before this movie began, right? If you look at, like, let's say, Chinatown. The villain was already buying up property in San Fernando Valley because they had put this plan into place at least 2 years before that. They were already full speed making things happen, and somebody stepped in the way of that. And it was the water commissioner who stepped in the way, and so he had to be killed. And that basically is what brought us in. They discredited the water commissioner and then finally killed him. So that plan was in place long before. If you look at Basic Instinct, that plan was in place for 10 years before it happened. So, you know, the villain's plan is going full force. Things are happening there. They've been designed to, to create a particular result. That plan is hidden and is only revealed when the hero's on the edge of death. So, you know, again, one step at a time, we reveal little pieces along the way, not enough to be able to figure it out until we get really into that third act. And without knowing it, the hero has stepped into the middle of the villain's plan. And this is also part of why, when you try to write it just from the hero's perspective, it's hard to create the story. It's hard to figure it out. It's because this is one of the big keys. The hero made a mistake, not knowing it, stepped into the villain's plan, and now the villain's going to end their life because of that. And so you have to know what the villain's plan is for that to work. From that point on, the hero must solve the mystery in order to survive. Now, if you got all of that and you build that in really, really well, you have at least a big part of what causes a thriller to be something that audiences absolutely love. 3 Days of the Condor. Let's work backwards. And I hope this makes sense, because really, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the end of the movie and find out what happened. But this was all in place from the beginning. So the villain's plan was already there. So we're working backwards on the villain's plan. There was a hidden CIA operation that takes control of foreign oil fields, right? So that is already in full motion at the beginning of the movie. Atwood, the deputy director of the Middle East, is in control of the secret operation and must keep it secret at any cost. As we saw at the end of the movie, it is enough to have people killed. So Atwood has to keep it secret in order to protect his own life, but, you know, hundreds of other things also. And then there's coded messages from the operation that were sent back and forth through unknown thriller books, right? So all of that, every bit of that was in place, and a whole bunch more at the beginning of this movie. Before the first scene happened, all of that was in place. Now, we don't find out about all of this until the third act, but it's under the surface the entire time. A series of hits were ordered, right, to cover up the covert op. So this is what happens when Turner finds out, or finds the plan. They went into cover-up mode. So the cover-up is part of the whole conspiracy. It's part of the villain's plan in this situation. They were going to do this anyway. Anybody who found out about it, this is what they were going to get. So the cover-up included the cleaner team that took out Turner's office, a trap that was set by Wicks, the mailman, and a very experienced hitman. And then backing up all the way to the very beginning, Turner sends in the report of a code that he discovered in a book. So again, you've got to figure this stuff out because once you figure this part out, then you know you have a thriller. then you know that you can build in the mysteries, the intrigue, the suspense that needs to be there to make it happen. Now, there's a bunch of other keys. I'm going to give you, I'll at least explain them so you know what they are. But trust and betrayal is really important in a thriller. And think about it this way. The hero has been thrust into this world of intrigue and covert activity and a devious villain. Because of that, many of the players are not trustable, right? Essentially, what's happened to the hero is their life was going along in a certain way, and suddenly everything around them no longer makes sense, right? They have no idea who they can trust because somebody is trying to kill them. And so many of the people are not trustable, but they've got to trust somebody in order to survive. So you design it that way. So the first question is, who do they already trust that they shouldn't trust? That's important. Second question, who do they not trust that they should trust? And why these two are going to show up, they may not show up in any other genre, but why they show up here is because it's the nature of this thing. It's all about the intrigue. It's about the life and death situations. It's about somebody has this crazy plan that is worth killing for. So they have no idea who's in on it and who's not. So this is incredibly important, and it builds in a lot more emotional experience for the audience. And ultimately, betrayal is inevitable. They are going to get betrayed. If they don't, you just missed one of the big emotional moments of your story. So that is worth building in. Let's take a look here. So here's some of the big players. Can Turner trust Higgins, right? And Higgins is the first CIA guy he calls into. This Higgins is his boss's boss. Can he trust Higgins? Can he trust Wicks, who is his section leader, who was sent to bring him in? Can he trust the CIA in general? He's worked for them for many, many years. Everything seemed to be fine up to this point. Can he trust Kathy Hale? This is the lady that he abducts in order to try to protect himself. Can he trust Jobert, the hit person, the hitman? Who can he trust? And here's the way to look at it. Who's trusted but betrays him? So in this case, it's Higgins is trusted in the beginning, at least to some degree, even though he's being careful, even though he's saying, how do I know who you are? All those kinds of things. He still basically trusts Higgins. He goes with Higgins' plan to some degree. He at least trusts Wicks enough to go into the alley. He's suspicious, but he's trusting him at least to a degree, and he gets betrayed. And he trusts the CIA at least to some degree, and he gets betrayed by them. Who isn't trusted, but should be? And I want you to notice how they did this, because it's actually pretty interesting. Kathy Hale, in the beginning, he has every right not to trust her, and she has every right not to trust him. She's trying to get away. She's trying to escape. That's what she should be doing. She's trying to sabotage what he's doing. That's what she should be doing. So in the beginning, she isn't trusted because she's in a situation that makes sense that he doesn't trust her. He seems at one point to start to trust her. But if you go to the very last scene between them, he's putting her on a train, and he says, hey, don't call anybody for 8 hours. And she realizes he doesn't want her to tell the CIA, or don't tell them for 8 hours. And she starts crying, because at that point, he should be trusting her. At that point, she has risked, everything in her life for him. So she should be trusted, you know, and he apologizes and recognizes what he did and that kind of thing. But, you know, it's like you're setting up situations so that there are people that are trusted but betray, and there are people that aren't trusted but should be. And here's the other one that ultimately should be trusted, which is Jobert. You know, all the way through, he shouldn't be trusting Jobert. Jobert's trying to kill him. But at the very end, when Jobert kills Atwood and says, oh, why should I kill you? He's the one who hired me, right? It's like the job no longer exists. So from that point on, at least to some degree, he should be trusting Jobert. And by the way, notice this, in every one of these, there's some degree of trust and some degree of distrust, right? So this is like the equivalent of part of what goes on in a horror movie or in a rom-com. Excuse me. In a rom-com, we are essentially feeling these moments of attraction. So trust and distrust are kind of like that. You know, the attraction between these two characters and our desire for them to get together. That's the rom-com version of this. So this is important. It's part of the emotional journey for your audience. Now, key number 5, and this one is big. Create a thriller map. Again, you know, problem I had on the first thriller I wrote was I didn't have a thriller map. I didn't know that. I thought the problem I was having was I just hadn't figured out the villain's plan yet. And it's like, no, you'll see in just a moment that the degree to which these thriller maps make a tremendous difference. In fact, here, let me just tell you a quick story. Joe Esterhaus wrote the movie Basic Instinct. When the movie came out, he went around, did the press junket, and one of the things he told everybody was that he wrote that script in 13 days. Now, he got paid a couple $1 million for that script. So it's like, it was pretty valuable. He wrote that script in 13 days. That made him look like an absolute genius to people. He continued having success for actually a couple of decades after that. And some of it was based on that. But here's what you need to know. 10 years later, he's doing another interview, and the interviewer says to him, or asks him, is it really true that you wrote the Basic Instinct in 13 days? Which, by the way, whatever you think about Basic Instinct, go watch the movie from a thriller perspective, and you will see it is an incredibly well-written movie. I had a group at one point where people were like, I don't like that movie, you know, it sucks and that kind of thing. And so I took the first 30 pages of that script. I went through and analyzed them. I sent them to that group of writers. It was 600 writers. And the people who said they didn't like the movie, when they read that first 30 pages of the script, they were blown away by the quality of writing that was in it. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, you should. But here's what he said. He said it took him 10 years to figure it out. He wrote it in 13 days. It took 10 years to figure out. What was he figuring out during that 10 years? And I'm going to tell you, he was figuring out the thriller map. He didn't call it that. He didn't know what it was, but it's all the components I'm about to give you are the 10 layers of a thriller map. So let me walk you through this right now. Oh, here. So a couple of things. Thriller map delivers on the marketable concept. That's really important. And the character journeys, and then it gives you real clarity on these 10 layers of a great thriller. This is the part, the 10 layers that trip people up. And once you understand those and you can build them into a map, you're a pro. So having a well-designed thriller map does this. First, it makes your script more professional. And it really can make a huge difference. It triples the speed of the writing and saves you a whole bunch of drafts. It's complex, but it's not confusing. And this right here, confusion, is the one thing you don't want your audiences experiencing. Think about it. When you go see a thriller, you're never like sitting there going, what? Why'd they do that? That makes no sense. You might be saying, wow, something just happened. What is that about? Right? It's a clue or something like that, but you're not in the middle of going, I don't understand this. I don't understand what's happening here, because the writer made it complex, but not confusing. Here's how people in this industry think. If a writer writes a script and hands it to them and it's confusing, they don't think, oh, wow, this is better. They think there's something wrong with the writer. I've had 10 producers say those exact words. I'll say, what happens when somebody hands you a script and it's confusing? And they'll go, oh, well, the writer's not ready yet, or there's something wrong with the writer, or the writer doesn't know how to write something that's truly complex. What they're really saying is the writer had no thriller map. They have no idea what's going on. Because of that, the writer got confused and then wrote it in a way that was confusing for the audience. Please don't ever do that. And it shows a great thriller map. Once a well-designed thriller map shows that you are a great writer. And this is what it did for Joe Esterhaus. Now, he was already successful, but that script took him to a whole new level in this industry's minds. So worth doing. So here's what goes into the thriller map. I'm going to walk you through it here so that you can see, and then we'll talk about how do you master this. Thriller map starts with, and some of it we've already talked about, starts with the thriller conventions, making sure that you are honoring the thriller conventions. Second, then you've got mystery, intrigue, and suspense. So you are building all three of those in all the way across the story, right? So it isn't like, oh, there's a little mystery and then it stops. It isn't like, oh, intrigue, yeah, we have that in about 10 scenes. It's like this is happening all the way through the story. The audience is in mystery. The audience is in intrigue. The audience is in suspense. And it's your job to make sure it happens all the way through there. Number 5, intriguing world and characters. So you've got characters specifically that are designed to make this thriller better. 6, plot twist. And you're going to have these. These are actually easy to do, but we have a whole series of different ways to do them for you. Number 7, then trust and betrayal. Now, we talked about that a little bit here, but we've got on this, we've got all of these, every one of these we cover in detail and give you complete strategies for. Number 8, reveals. And, you know, if you look at writing that was done by somebody who is relatively new, maybe this is their second or third script, you'll see a lot of reveals that are done in a way. First, in a lot of scripts, you don't see any reveals at all. Then you'll see the second level up is reveals that are done in a way where we get to the end or we get to a scene and the character lets loose and tells their backstory. It's the weakest way there is to do a reveal. So what we do on this, by the way, is we have a model for reveals that's just incredible. It was something our development team figured out. It took us a long time. We looked at about 100 different reveals in some of the best thrillers. So this needs to be really strong. This should be an emotional experience for the audience when a reveal happens. It should be an aha moment. It should surprise us. It should have us go, oh my God, that's what's going on, kind of thing. So it makes a big difference. Then you've built in clue trails, and some of those clue trails misdirect. Now, again, on misdirection is something that if you use too much the audience will get lost and confused. If you don't use enough, the audience will figure it out instantly. So these work together to be able to make this happen. Now, this is 10 layers of a thriller map. And your job is to be able to design this in a way that has the reader constantly engaged, constantly wondering, constantly worried, and constantly trying to solve the problem. They are trying to figure out what's happened, how it happened, why, and then your job also is to surprise them multiple times along the way. So this is what we've designed into the program that we're about to talk about, and I just wanted to give you a chance to take a look at it, see if it might be something you want to do. But as you're looking at it, I'll also then explain some more details on these. So this is our Mastering the Thriller Genre class. It's a 30-day long class, and it really does help you accomplish what we just said. For instance, we had one lady go through this program. She had never written a thriller in her life. And she said, well, she was intrigued by what I had to say. So she said, all right, let me just try it. She came in, created a thriller concept in the very beginning, went through this whole program. At the end of it, 30 days later, she had a strong thriller map. She went through and wrote that script. It took her 15 days because she had a great thriller map. She then got it into some contests. She ended up winning some contest with it. She got it to some producers. One of the producers he had the script for almost a month. He had never read a word. He didn't know who she was. She'd called him and pitched him. So she called him back and said, hey, just read the first 5 pages. And if you don't like it at that point, then just send me a text and I'll leave you alone. He read the first 5 pages and couldn't stop. He called her back an hour and a half later and optioned the script. So that's the difference a quality thriller map can make. Now, here, let's take a look at this. First day, you're going to go through the conventions of thrillers. You're going to bring in either a thriller idea or a script you've already written that is a thriller. If you bring in the second, a script you've already written that's a thriller, I want you just to assume that it's an early draft and you give yourself permission to make any changes that will make it better. So you'll go through the conventions of thrillers. We'll give you more details, more examples, and make sure you understand them. You will create your own conventions on that day. On day 2, and these lessons are every other day. Day 2, I'll show you exactly how to create the big mystery, intrigue, and suspense. Now, I explained those 3 today, but I didn't give you the how-tos. So there you'll get the exact how-tos, and you will create your big mystery, intrigue, and suspense for your project. Day 3, now you will look at the world and the characters and how you make them intriguing. And we have a bunch of different strategies here, but a lot of times people will create a thriller in a world that's not intriguing and thereby lose some of the opportunities that could have been there to make that thriller great. Day 4, this is our stacking suspense model. This one is proprietary. It's something we have that's completely unique. Our development team had a huge breakthrough. So I'm not going to actually explain this one. When you get it, you will be blown away by it. It'll make a huge difference in the quality of suspense that the audience feels. On day 5, now day 5, 6, 7, and 8, you are creating the plot. And this is part of what makes this a great thriller, because you are creating this on 3 different levels. The villain's plan. First, you're going to go through and design out the villain's plan all the way across your story. And we'll tell you exactly how to do that. So you're going to build the villain's plan in first. Then you're going to come back and craft the big mystery sequence. And again, this is designed to have us kind of fall into the first mystery. And once we hit the first mystery, we have to solve it in order for that character to survive. And so every mystery after that becomes more and more and more important. And then day 7, now you're going to be working with and building life-threatening suspense all the way across your story. So all 3 of these, you are focused on only one thing all the way across the story, right? The villain's plan may have like 10 to 15 beats to it, right? The big mystery sequence is going to have 3 to 4 big mysteries, but it also, they may have other beats that are built in. The life-threatening suspense may have somewhere between 10 to 15 beats also. So you're going to then on day 8 intertwine those so that that becomes your plot. Now, here's what this does. Once you create a plot this way, you will look at other things you've written and go, oh, wow, they're nothing close to as strong as this. What this does, creating a plot this way, is it has every scene have some part of the big mystery, intrigue, and suspense. And because of that, your reader will be engaged every single moment. Then day 9, now it's about plot twists that surprise us. We're going to give you a series of different ways to create plot twist, which is, again, really important. If you create plot twist all in the same way, they'll become predictable. So that's important. Day 10, now it's about trust and betrayal. And here you'll actually look at and design all the different places you could cause trust and betrayal and all the different characters you could cause it with. Again, today I talked about what it was. I didn't talk about how to do it. So you'll get that there. Day 11, now creating demands for reveals. Now listen, reveals, this right here, you will use this in every genre you ever write in from now on. Just learning this right here, this one thing, how do you design reveals in a way that have an emotional impact for the audience? This will change everything you write from now on. It'll take it to a much, much higher level. It's one of the ways that pros know that they're looking at somebody who is a professional, right? If an agent or a manager is looking at your script and you have average reveals, it's over. Use this model where you design demand in advance, where you create it as this surprising yet incredibly meaningful reveal that is only done at the point at which it's forced out, and where it's done in a way that is a serious emotional experience for the audience. Do that, and people are going to love how you reveal things. Day 12, now it's about creating the engaging clue trails. You need to have your audience clued in to a certain degree so they want to solve it. But you also need to be able to misdirect that audience at specific times. And these two work together to keep us constantly guessing and trying to figure it out. Now then we come to day 14. Now you elevate, you bring the entire thriller map together and you go through and do a quick elevation process on it, which has it all make sense, has it all work, that it elevates the key components that keep us engaged from a mystery, an intrigue, and a suspense level. And finally, on day 15, you now transfer your thriller map to a screenplay. Again, we have had people who have come out of this. They go through these lessons, which are delivered every other day. It's a 30-day class. And at the end of it, they go straight to the screenplay. We've had people write scripts in 15 days, 20 days, 30 days after that. Most people who write 10 drafts have said with a strong thriller map, they can usually get this done in 3 drafts. It makes a huge difference. So let me give you a special on this. And in fact, here, let's go to the next screen for this. The dates on this program. It's going to start on July 31st. Now, what that does is that gives you some time to brainstorm concepts or to choose whatever project you are going to bring in. So that's when it starts. It's a 30-day class, again, with lessons every other day. Normal price on it is $199. Right now, you can get in. Let me give you a special. This is for the first 20 people. First 20 people can get in for $124, which saves you $75. So all you got to do to do that, and again, that's for the first 20. After that, the price bumps up. All you got to do is just write this web address down, bit.ly, bit.ly/thriller-class. Take that, put it in your browser where you normally put a web address, click return, and that'll take you to the sign-up sheet. Please keep this in mind. If you've already written thrillers, there's going to be at least 5 or 6 things in here that is going to double the quality of your writing. I'm serious about that. If you've never written a thriller, at the end of this 30 days, you will come out knowing more about it than 90% of the writers out there who are writing thrillers right now. This program will make a tremendous difference. It's the one program that I say, if you don't take any of our other programs, take this one. You will love what it does for your writing. So again, to get the special, just go take this link, bit.ly/thriller-class, put it in your browser, click return, go through the sign up, and that'll start the process for you. Well, the moment you start this class, you will be learning every day, you will be growing every day, and you will be one step closer every day to having a great thriller. So with that, listen, thank you guys for being with me today. I hope you got something valuable out of this, and that's my hope every time we do this, whether you join us for a class or not. And I promise you, if you do join this class, you will be so glad you did. So good talking with you all. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, wishing you the absolute best in your writing. Bye-bye, everyone.